Hey everyone, welcome to the New Populist. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Now, Joe Biden was giving a speech this morning, and he said, "We have 12,000 troops on the border with Russia, and we will defend any NATO country, even if that means World War III." Now, it's never comfortable or encouraging to hear a president of the United States mention the possibility of World War III, and even more so when you consider the fact that Joe Biden is a doddering fool, somebody who has a clear cognitive decline, early dementia, something like that. He's not all there. And so the fact that it's coming from him and not Trump or Obama or Clinton or Bush, it's even scarier. And that got me thinking, what do we do if there is a nuclear attack in this country? Now, personally, my plan, I live about 10 miles from Washington, D.C., so I will shit my pants and wait to be incinerated. But just because that's my plan doesn't mean that's your plan. And what is Russia's plan if there is a nuclear attack? So I got to digging around, and I found this article from 2016, and it's titled, "Russia is Preparing for Nuclear War." And this is from the Business Insider. So October 25th, 2016, Russia is preparing for nuclear war. And the article says, across Russia, 40 million civilians, and the population of Russia is 140 million, so almost a third of the population. 40 million civilians and military personnel just finished up emergency drills aimed at preparing the general population for nuclear or chemical weapon attacks, the Wall Street Journal's Thomas Grove reports. And it goes on to say, the U.S. has long relied on the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, that is, having a spread out, autonomous, and effective nuclear arsenal that would return fire should another nuclear power attack, with the intent of deterring any nuclear attack. But sources told the journal that Moscow was now taking steps to ensure that 100% of its population would be sheltered from such an attack. So here in the United States, our position is, well, we'll have enough offensive weapons to deter somebody else from attacking us. And Russia's position is, we're going to take precautions. We're going to build shelters to make sure that the entire population, at least in Moscow, can be protected from a nuclear attack. And the reason it's important to see what they're doing is that we look at everything through our eyes as Americans. We think no one's going to be dumb enough to attack us. We don't really believe that there's this possibility for nuclear war. Yet in Russia and probably China, their calculus is a lot different. They apparently consider the possibility of nuclear war to be a lot higher than we consider it. If they were stopping to mobilize almost a third of the population to run these drills, and apparently they're building shelters. So it's not to suggest that we're going to war, but clearly in Russia, they are much more prepared for the possibility of a nuclear war. And that may be, or may suggest, what Putin might be thinking as far as possible confrontations with the United States. If he feels that they're much more prepared for a nuclear war than we are, and we continue to isolate that country and push them into a corner where they face some sort of economic collapse, maybe he goes, we're better off fighting a nuclear war. They'll be destroyed, and so will we, but we have a better way to protect our civilians. And at the end of it, we may come out better off for it, at least than the Americans. And what about here? So they have their plan for a nuclear war. They got their preparations. So again, what about us? Besides the fact that we have our offensive weapons, is there a plan for civilians? Well, the government actually has a website, ready.gov, and it actually outlines what you should do if there is a nuclear attack. So it's pretty funny in the sense that it's basically saying hide under your bed and pray. But if you go to their site, ready.gov, it says, if warned of an imminent attack, immediately get inside the nearest building and move away from windows. That sounds like what you do during a tornado, nothing different. But then it goes on to say, just to show you who we're dealing with. Are we dealing with serious people? When you have reached a safe place, try to maintain a distance of at least 6 feet between yourself and people who are not part of your household. If possible, wear a mask if you're sheltering with people who are not part of your household. So in the event of nuclear war, when we're all about to be incinerated, the people at ready.gov are telling you to socially distance and put a mask on. Are these people serious? And that's where it really makes you wonder, who is more ready to protect their population from a nuclear attack? Putin in Russia, who's building shelters and running drills, or our government who says get inside and socially distance, put a mask on because you need to worry about COVID-19 during this nuclear attack? And that's where you go, gosh, it's not too promising. But, I went through the site and it actually has a thing here. It says prepare now. And it says, identify shelter locations. And I thought, well, maybe this means that there are shelters in the area that you can find to go to in the event of a possible nuclear attack. But when I clicked on that link, it just took me to a page that talked about the different types of shelters, sheltering at home, and I guess a home, going to a mass care shelter, sheltering in place. So basically there's nothing special out there for you. It's just talking about the different places you could possibly go to shelter, all of which are not bunkers or not anything that will protect you from a nuclear explosion. Now, around the DC area, there are buildings I've worked in before that used to be nuclear fallout shelters, which have been converted into apartment complexes. The DC area, there's some, lower income housing. And these were not meant for surviving a nuclear blast, but rather after a nuclear blast, you could go to these shelters and try to hide from that fallout. Or if you're in the shelter, you can stay in there and you're protected from the fallout, which is the worst, the first few hours after a nuclear blast. But those buildings, again, they are no longer really used as fallout shelters. They've been converted to housing. And those bottom basements are basically the basements of the building where all the plumbing is at and their hot water tank. So they're no longer really treated as fallout shelters. So United States, we are not that prepared for a nuclear war, and our counterparts seem to be prepared. Again, 40 million people mobilized in drills, building shelters to make sure that all the population, at least in Moscow, can be protected during a nuclear attack. So not too encouraging. Again, the chance of World War III are relatively low. Before this Ukraine conflict, I would have said it's next to zero. But then you think about the last 5 years and all the crazy nonsense that's happened, and you go, perhaps there are chances of World War III are a little higher than we think, because I am done saying that something can happen. I didn't think Russia would invade Ukraine. I never thought I would see the authoritarian actions we've seen the last couple of years. Anything is possible. So I would not rely on the government. Prepare for yourself. Hopefully you have a plan. If in the scenario where there is a nuclear attack against this country, as unlikely as it is, because if you don't have a plan, well, our government does not have a plan, so doesn't look good. Well, that's it for now. Again, if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.